Hello. I have a lot of ground to cover, but not nearly enough time. I work 2 jobs. I just finished one 7-hour shift, and I have about 1 hour until I go to the second one. But let me begin by stating that I understand that the man's hatred of me is my fault. Right? Yes, I know. I own it. I have to own it. We gotta air our dirty laundry. But this thing, right? Whatever this is, right? The evil of it all. Right? I want you all to consider this as my last will and testament. And I know he's laughing his ass off right now, right? Because he got it. He got what he wanted, right? He destroyed my mind on some level. Though I wear it well, I'll question my every thought forever. But I live in perpetual fear that as a result of his inability to compel me to blow my brains out, he'll send assassins to my house to murder my entire family. I also accept that he'll hover over me forever. That he'll pay people to watch me, right? And I'll hover over him forever. Right? This is the condition. Okay. In Plato's sublime allegory of the cave, he posits that the unphilosophic life is lived as though perceived by being chained inside of a cave. Right? And the experiences that we have are as shadows cast onto the wall of the cave from a fire unseen illuminated behind. And when you break free of your enslavement and you exodus, you leave the cave and you see the world for what it really is. When you descend once more and you tell your comrades, oh no, this isn't the way, this isn't the truth, this isn't the life. In their blissful ignorance they say, oh, how unfortunate, he's lost his mind. Wisdom appears as madness to the uninitiated. Science expects us all to believe just one miracle, the Big Bang, and we find ourselves in similar straits regarding the things that I am about to say to you about the movie Critic. The one miracle that you have to accept in order for the rest of the dominoes to cascade accordingly is that Quentin Tarantino is a powerful psychic clairvoyant. Right? If you can accept that, right, then you'll understand that everything that I'm saying is true, because it is true. It's equally valid intellectually to say that motion came first and mind is a reflex, right? That memory is a static condition embossed upon space as a result of motion. That's equally valid intellectually. That there is no divine origin, right? Etc. etc. Yeah. Of course, anyone who knows anything about clairvoyance knows that life has an intellectual origin, right? Okay. My name is Brian Jennings. I've decided to post this to Phish, as well as include the last email that I sent to Trey, as well as a myriad of other institutions and personages, because they've all closed ranks around him in his evil campaign to destroy me. And so the game's over, right? It's time to talk about it. It's time for me to accept, right, that he hates me forever. And since none of them want to help me in any way, right, I reached out to 60 Minutes, right? I reached out to Joe Rogan, I reached out to all these institutions that allege to care about news, but right, I don't have $100 million, so they side with the evil, and perhaps he's threatened all of them, like I don't really know, Certainly he can torture anyone, right? And so I'm bringing it to the forefront, to the Phish.net forum, right? And it's my hope that you will simply share it, right? I'm not asking you to jump into this dangerous psychic siege with me, right? Though you're all anonymous, and therefore you all can, right? Okay. I wear a lot of hats, right? First of all, I'm a musician. I've been coming to shows for 16 years now. I'm technically 3.0, but I got into them between 2.0 and 3.0. And I'm also a writer, right? And I'm also an actor. I want to play Hamlet. And so I wrote Quentin Tarantino 4 letters in June of 2023 about playing the lead in the movie Critic. Right? Made a very, very strong case, right? I left nothing to chance. I wrote one, and then I thought, I'm being too coy. This is a famous guy. I need to say exactly what my point is, right? So the trades published that he's going to be shooting the film at the end of September. And so I said, "Oh, that's it. I'm out. There's nothing to be done. He's already cast it. It's done. That's fine." Right? So, fast forward to December, middle of December, I'm acting in The Two Gentlemen of Verona, right? And the press announces that he's halted production. It's also worth pointing out that the SAG strike, right, lasted until Thanksgiving, right? Till the beginning of December, essentially. So, right, I'm backstage, The Two Gentlemen of Verona, and all the letters come flooding back to me. There's a bunch of pages, it's like maybe 15 pages. And I hear him. Oh, if this guy writes me again, you let me know. And okay, dude, let's do it, right? And so my hair is like as long as it was when I sent my headshot, but I had cut it between then and now. After they announced that he was making the movie, that the movie was already cast. There's nothing, like what am I, that was the only reason I would keep it long. And then I was supposed to be in another movie that I had it long for, and they burned me as well, so I cut it. But I wrote him a letter. I put a video of Hamlet and Hamlet's introduction to the players. And I said, "Oh, I'm sorry about my hair, but it's cool. Like, don't worry. Like, we can figure it out." And so I could tell he was upset, but anyway, like to wrap it up, right? I ended up getting thrown out of The Two Gentlemen of Verona because the other actors read my notebook, right? And so I yelled at them at the top of my lungs until they threw me out because that's an egregious psychic violation, right? And so I then decided to send it as a scene to Quentin, right? And from then I continued to write. And I wrote him as much as I could all the way through the end of January when it was announced in the press that Brad Pitt is reuniting with Quentin for the movie Critic, and he stopped accepting my mail, right? So I write him 60 pages, 70 pages, he says nothing, right? That sent me into a great depression, right? I thought, this fucking guy, right? This guy thinks I'm a fucking asshole, right? And so I wrote a 7,000-word essay torching him and Brad Pitt, right? Posted it online. When that didn't catch fire, I started reviewing movies in protest. Right? I reviewed An American in Paris, Mr. Skeffington, all on TCM, Turner Classic Movies. I was living in a hotel at the time. And Gone with the Wind. And so I posted my 4,500-word review of Gone with the Wind directly to his Twitter, which has a picture of him holding a gun to his head. And he'll probably change it now. But he's a violent guy, is my point. He's a violent, dangerous man, right? And he canceled the film the following day. Right? I am the real reason that Quentin canceled the movie Critic, right? And so while I'm a lot of things, I'll only ever be remembered as a coward, and I acknowledge that now. And it's fine. I own it. I have God's approval. I don't need anyone else's, right? And it upsets me a lot, because it's my fault, right? It's my fault that it's gone on this long. But everything that you see in the press is bullshit. It's all in relation to me, right? So he announces that he's speaking at Tribeca. I didn't want to go, right? I thought that it was stalkerish, right? But my coworkers eventually talked me into buying a ticket, and I decided to buy his book, Cinema Speculation, right? And so, again, the one miracle, right? Between the time that he canceled the film and Tribeca, I wrote him twice, denied at the door both times, right? Refused at the door, just like when he stopped accepting my mail when he announced that Brad Pitt was playing the role. And so he spent those weeks crawling all the way into my mind, just like he did in December, right? Digging around, playing his games. How many times did I get off work and I would write through sunset at my house, and he would say, "Oh, I can't fuck with this guy. Because he's watching me. He remote views people. He's a psychic clairvoyant, right?" He says, "Oh, he's writing right now. I can't fuck with this guy." Right? And so, right, he tells me he wants me to question him about Cinema Speculation, right? And so I get there early. Right? I read this book twice. I watched all the films. I had 10 questions. And he spent the whole time setting me up, right? And then I had a letter inside, right? And again, this is my fault. It's all my fault. I'm owning it, right? It's time to own it. It's time to talk about it. Bring it into the light of day, right? And so, as he finished, right? It's him and Robert De Niro, right? They have a conversation about the film Jackie Brown, right? He turns his back, right? He says, "Oh, that's it." And he looks right at me, and I'm standing there, and I have my book, and I asked him to sign it, and he signed it. There it is, right? And there's my letter, right? I had my letter right there, right? And so I pushed the letter all the way up to his face, right? He stuck his nose up, turned his back, and so I turned my back, right? And this is, again, it was so petty. I wasn't thinking. I don't know, I'm a coward, right? I'm a loser, right? I acknowledge that, right? That he's the famous one in this formula, and I could wax intellectual, I could wax arrogant, right? But it's obvious now that he set the whole thing up for me because he wanted to welcome me in, right? And he just wanted me to be strong, right? That he loves my rage, right? That's, and so I burned him, right? Immediately, I knew I blew it immediately. I did everything that I could. I've done so much to make it right, but of course that was my shot. I blew it. And over the following weeks, I wrote him some letters. And, originally I was arrogant. I was petulant and arrogant, and I just felt guilty. And so I said, "Oh, I'm going to build you a planter, and I want to make it right. I want to make it right. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to be a horse's ass, etc., etc." And I told him I'd do the movie for free, and that was always true. And now there's no way in hell I want to be anywhere near that man at all. And we'll get to that in due time. Right? So I go see Phish. Right? He's in my mind. He steals all my secrets. Right? With his psychic clairvoyance. And so finally I crack and I say, "What do you want from me? You want me to go there and scream at the top of my lungs?" Remember, he never actually said anything to me. Right? It's worth pointing out, right? I didn't want to accept my letters, right? Didn't want to, right? Wanted to play his psychic mind game, right? And I didn't want to read between the lines, right? And that's me owning it, right? I'm the loser in this formula, right? I'm a coward. He's evil, right? This is the condition, right? Okay. So he steals all my secrets. I say, "What do you want from me? You want me to go there and scream at the top of my lungs?" He says, "Yes." I fly to LA immediately, right? And so I can't, I don't have the time to go through everything, but that set into motion a sequence of events where he led me to believe that he has a daughter who's in love with me, which is complete bullshit. He doesn't have, he has 2 small children. His daughter's like 3 years old now, right? And so I was on the street in New York, then in LA. Again, he's just burying my mind in bullshit. Now this woman's like fucking other men and torturing me, and it's all him playing his sick, fucked up mind games, right? And so eventually I wrote another essay, 9,000 words, right? And I put it online, and he was upset. And I said, "Well, what about Phish?" Right? This is where we get to Phish, right? And he said, "Okay, sure." And so I wrote Trey and asked him if I could play on stage with the band, and announced that I'm playing the movie Critic on New Year's Eve, or the day before, on the 30th, last New Year's. And I wrote it, and then that was on a Saturday. I mailed it on a Saturday, and then on the Monday following, he said, "Oh, there is no movie," and he's crying. It's all bullshit, And so, in due time, it turned into, "Oh, Eliza wants to play Ophelia to your Hamlet," and then, "Oh, Eliza's in love with you," right? And so you need to go to New York, right? Again, he was just trying to shuffle me out of town, right? And so I get out of town, however far. I was in Tennessee. I could only get to Memphis, right? And finally he admitted, Trey's not involved in any way, right? That it was all bullshit, right? To get me out of LA, right? And my point is that he's already made the movie, and we'll get to that later, right? But so I ended up at my mom's house. I'm in my mom's house now in Alabama, which was however many hours from Memphis. It's like 3 hours from Memphis. And I spent from Thanksgiving, essentially all the way through New Year's, in sad boy Brian phase. I think still assuming that there was like this woman involved, that he has an adult daughter, who's a skank essentially, And so on New Year's Eve, I said, "Okay, I'm gonna remote view for the first time." And I always knew what time it was, And so her name is Allison, Alllyson, Tarantino. I feel like he doesn't know who she is now. And I don't know that. Maybe he does. But it doesn't matter either way. I printed out her picture, Allyson, Tarantino. Right? You can look her up on Instagram. Ally son Allison. Right? And so, right, boom, he starts poisoning my mind with bullshit as soon as I start meditating, right, and trying to find her, right, that she is at a nightclub now, she's fucking a guy, and, again, it's all bullshit. It's all bullshit to keep me from like actually watching whomever this woman is, if she's innocent, if she's related to him, right, is she the first bitch that pops up when he types in his name, right, doesn't matter, right, and so. As the days passed, right, and I continued, digging with his tactics, right, that this is his game that he wants to play, right. Eventually, she became a prostitute, right, that she gets pissed on for $500 an hour, right, and not only that, right, that she possesses men's minds with this thing, right, this clairvoyant thing, right, and not only that, right. That she wants to torture me with psychosexual torture while she's doing it. Right? And so I went off, right? Started poisoning her mind with notions of AIDS, right? Because I trusted him, because I believed him, right? I've trusted him the entire time, right? I didn't trust it, right, in the moment, right? Now I see now, it was all humiliation. It was all just to compel me to blow my brains out, right? And so after... maybe 5 weeks of that, right, last 3 weeks, right, he finally admitted, I have no daughter. There is no daughter, right? And so I had written Phish, maybe 5 letters up to that point. They had announced L.A. And so after he admitted to me that it was all bullshit, then it became really crystal clear in my mind. And again, he'll deny all of this, right? He'll deny all of it. He'll just say, oh no, after Tribeca, I didn't, et cetera, like how unfortunate he's lost his mind, But again, you trust the one miracle, and you can believe everything else, because everything that I'm saying to you is true, right? And so after I realized, right, after I realized that it was all bullshit, right, that there is no, right, it's nothing beyond the machinations, right, the conspiracies in his mind, right, then it became clear, he just wants me to die. He just wants me to blow my brains out, and now I'll explain why. If we posit that these things are true, right? If we say that, you can create a psychic connection with people, and I've explained this to Phish, I've explained it to everyone, there is no formula, right, where an adept, right, would crawl all the way into someone's mind, right, and as the pendulum swings both ways, thereby letting the other person all the way into their mind, right, never expecting to make any real memories, never expecting to spend any real time with them, only expecting to exist as a psychic phantom or a shadow, right? Would someone do that under the understanding or expectation that they expect it to persist for 20 years, 30 years, the last 20 years of his life, no less, 30 years of his life? Therefore, right, the goal was always to get me to blow my brains out, right? I sent him that scene. It's the best scene in that fucking movie. He's already made the movie, right? And when I heard him, right, he said, I'll get this guy to kill himself, and then I'll get his scene for free, right? That's right. You heard me. I steal your life, and I steal your intellectual property for free, right? And so then, right, then I came clean, like, properly, right? I emailed Ari Emanuel at WME, right? Mike Simpson has known about this campaign. That's Quentin's agent for almost a year now, and I have filed suit for $100 million because there's no other way to interpret it, right? I emailed Ari Emanuel. I said, this thing that he's been doing is disgusting. It's time to come clean, right? And so I made 2 savage monologues, right? 22 minutes, 2 takes, one for Mike, one for Ari, explaining to them how dangerous it all is, right? And I posted it all online. I've since taken everything down again because he continues to torture me, right, with these sick, disgusting, base black magic tactics, right? And so that's why he announced on April Fool's Day, right, that he sold the script to Netflix, right? There is no Netflix movie, right? There is no David Fincher. David Fincher put his name on a dumpster fire. Quentin's already made the movie, right? There is no other Quentin Tarantino film as long as I'm alive. That's the point, right? And that's why I'm coming out. We're going to air our dirty laundry. We're putting it out there because I'm not going to blow my brains out, right? And so when I was poisoning his fake daughter with notions of AIDS, I initiated him, right? And now he is doing dangerous, disgusting things to me every day that he can always deny, right? With hypodermic needles, trying to poison my magnetic aura with diseases, right? So now, right, it's time to come clean. It's time to talk about it, right? That he's at a breaking point psychologically, right? Because my mind is very nuanced. It's very sophisticated, right? And we're getting to a fever pitch now, right? Where I don't care what he says. I tower over him too, right? And number one, if I do, I can do the same things too. Right? This isn't, anyone can do it, right? It's easy, right? But if I do the same things to him that he does to me, right? He will send people to assassinate my family. That's all that will happen, right? I know it. I know it, right? And I'm assured, right, that he doesn't want to kill me, right? That he doesn't want me to die, right? But if you heard my logic earlier, right, you'd know that I'm right. That no one in their right mind would create a diseased psychic connection with someone, right, that they expect to persist for 20 years, right? And so now, anytime he'll do anything, right, anytime he speaks anywhere, right, when he was at Cannes a couple weeks ago, right, he paid people to torture me all night into submission, right? And so I put all the shit online, right, wrote Trey some more emails. I said, this guy obviously wants me to die. I want you to show me every correspondence that you've received that involves me. Just me, that's all, right? Crickets, nothing. Right? My point being that happy-go-lucky spiritual guy, Trey, he's in league with evil, right? That he's cast his allegiances with black magic sorcery, right? Because if it was just my letters, right? If Quentin never said anything to him, right? Right? What does he lose in scanning the letters that I sent him and saying, here's the correspondence, says you're obviously not well, we wish you well, right? Obviously, Quentin has slandered me to everyone that I wrote in an effort towards our reconciliation, and now I see there never will be one. Right? So, right now we're in the middle of this sick, dangerous game. Right? He's been trying to give me AIDS. Right? He's been trying to poison my aura with diseases. Right? And so, what I'm asking now, the Phish community, the only community that I've ever known, you know, is please just share the material. You know, I'm not asking you to jump into this psychic siege with me. You know, I'm not asking you to do that. But, right, when I tell you, right, he has a psychic connection with me, and then he'll shoot gunshots through my headshot, right? To try to send me into shock, to try to give me a stroke, and all these things, right? And I have my own tactics in that way, right? I don't debase myself, right? And they're getting quite sophisticated in their expression, right? Which is another reason why it's just time to talk about it. It's time to just accept it, right? That we're mortal enemies, right? And the world needs to know, right? But if you wanted to, right? All you have to do is print out his picture, be still, stare at his eyes for however long until you're in a trance, right? And you close your eyes, right? And you're there, you're with him, right? You tell him what I've been telling him. You look to Leo, right? You look to your daughter. You look to your wife. Right? Let Brian go. Right? This isn't about money, right? I told him weeks ago, right? You just leave me alone. You keep all that material. 25 minutes of scripted material, you keep all of it. You just go your way, right? And so he's told me to sue, and so I did, right? But I don't have $100,000 to pay for an attorney, right? I mailed it to the courthouse, right? Right? But of course, it's in the slush pile, you know. Like, I don't know, how long does it take to process these things, you know? I don't have the money. I don't have the money to pay for someone to e-file it. You know, like I had to physically mail it. And I did all the paperwork. I dotted all the I's, crossed all the T's, right? William Morris Endeavor, right? And so what I'm saying is that I'm reaching out to the Phish community now to ask you to just share this material. Share the last email that I sent to Trey Anastasio. Share this video on all your social medias, right? And if someone wants to, if anyone if anyone calls themselves a clairvoyant, like if you understand remote viewing, like if you wanted to find him and say the game is over, that it's enough, that Brian has the right to live, right? He sees me as some sick sacrifice to the movies, right? That's how he sees me. And again, he'll lie, right? But please, right? If you wanted to write his agency, William Morris Endeavor, the address is 9601 Wilshire Boulevard, Beverly Hills, California, 90210. That's 9601 Wilshire Boulevard, Beverly Hills, California, 90210. If you wanted to write Trey, right? P.O. Box 4400, Vermont, right? Burlington, Vermont, right? Right? None of you have to do any of these things, right? You could just share it. You can make jokes at my expense. It's fine. Say, how unfortunate, right? Like, and this is, like what Quentin has to endure, this man, right? And so that's, right? I've always been his ticket to Best Director. And I could have played the game and I could be a movie star now, right? But now, anyway, you stack it, right? If I blow my brains out, right? The Academy says, oh gosh, how unfortunate you had this crazy guy and you trusted him, right? Right? If he pays me $100 million, they say, oh, such magnanimity, right? If I die under mysterious circumstances, he has no more problems, right? And then he gets to use my material for free, right? You share it online, right? It's time to get it out into the public, right? I have to talk about it every day until it is resolved amicably, right? William Morris Endeavor is a pathological, amoral establishment. Mike Simpson has known about this campaign for over a year, right? Going on 1 year. I suppose it's going on 1 year, technically. 11 months. No, that's not true. It's 13 months. And, they seem to think that it's cool to use wisdom to torture people, right? They seem to think that it's appropriate for him, right, to use hypodermic needles to try to poison my aura. Right? And again, anyone can do it, right? Any one of you, right? Put a gunshot through his headshot, through any of his pictures, right? And give him a splitting migraine, right? Send him into shock, right? This is the game. These are the tactics, right? Right? You take a magnifying glass, right? Right? Burn through his hole, burn through the eye of his picture, right? This is the game. It's the same game, right? And so he's torturing me palpably every day, right? Right? Today at work, right? Hypodermic needle in my right side, right? Like this is, and again, he'll lie. He lies. He only has cunning, right? You don't have to believe me, right? 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 Ask the director of the Tribeca Film Festival. Ask Robert De Niro, right? Ask Trey Anastasio, right? Right? Ask Martin Scorsese. Ask Francesca Scorsese. Ask Paul Schrader, right? Ask David Berlinski. Ask Stephen Meyer. Ask the Discovery Institute, right? All of these people are privy to my allegations, right, against Quentin, to the condition that I explained to them, this is what's occurring. You're supporting evil by saying silent. Silence is compliance, right? And so they want to say nothing. And the Discovery Institute, right, for them to propagate intelligent design, right, and turn a blind eye to this evil, they're charlatans and frauds, every one of them, right? And so, right, if you could please just take the time, right? And I'm just now seeing this Halloween bucket. There's pins in there, but now everyone's gonna say, "Oh, what a fucking this guy's getting ready for Halloween." Anyway, make jokes at my expense, right? Or jump in the game and try to destroy me just like he is, right? But if you have a heart, right? Right? I don't have to be a movie star, right? I don't have to be a sacrifice to the altar of the movies either, right? And my knowing failed me, right? And it upsets me a lot, but I need your help. I need everyone in this community that means so much to me, that sees this, to just share it online. That's all. So that hopefully, right, he'll stop, right? And it's an ethical decision, right? It's above the law, right? Should he pay me an exorbitant amount of money? He's damaged my psyche forever, and I've damaged his too, right? But he has the money to go to therapy, doesn't he? Right? But it's above money. It's not about money, right? Again, if you remember, I told him he could have it all for free, right? He wants me to sue, right? But I can't. The wheels of justice, right? They work slow, right? So this is me uploading this video, right? It's a Google Drive link, right? As well as the last letter that I sent to Trey asking help from the Phish community to just share it. Share the link, share the letter online so that the world can understand. God bless you all. Anyone who's at Folsom Field this weekend, please, if you're close to the band, if you would consider making a sign that says, how do you know Quentin Tarantino? Let Brian see the documents, right? Do you support black magic sorcery? You know, like anything of this kind. How do you know Quentin Tarantino? If you could make a sign, right? That I have to, like, this is my life, right? This is my life, right? I don't have to be a movie star, right? That's fine. I got God's approval, right? It's my fault. It's my fault, right? There is no David Fincher film. He's already made the movie. It has my intellectual property in it, right? Because if it didn't, why wouldn't he just release the film? Crazy fan. Who cares? Famous people have crazy fans all the time, don't they? Right? And there's so much more that I could say about it, but I have to go to work in like 20 minutes, you know, for another 7 hours. So God bless you all. Please think of me. You know, remind him what he has to be grateful for, that he doesn't have to focus on me, right? Thank you.